It was time for a change. Hola, chica.
Yeah. You know, I'm just saying, like the wonderful overcast that's over. Here in Atlanta, you know, it's like 70 degrees.
It really does feel great, you guys. Hey, Anitra, she's early.
I know, right?
Yeah, it feels really great out here. It looks awful though. It's overcast.
It feels like global warming.
Off the change.
I'm still appreciative because I'm like, why is it 70-something degrees on New Year's Eve?
Because we gonna kick it. No, I'm too old for this.
Because we're in Cali or maybe Houston. That's pretty hot.
In Houston, I'm sure it feels like perfect. Yeah. And that's just real talk. I love Houston's weather at this time of the year.
Perfect about Houston, y'all. We won't go there. Hi,
Camille. She's talking about me because I want to go back to Houston, you guys. I'm just saying it. So, you know, no disrespect, ATL, but
I feel like Camille is on my side with that, but it's fine.
This is not how the show was supposed to start.
We start how we start. Y'all know how we do.
We start some kind of way.
Trying to get in here. But we're excited to be here on New Year's Eve. NYE.
Now you going into the new year. We should have did
glitter or hats because Lord knows I'm probably not going to be awake at midnight. So, you know.
Yeah, how many of y'all gonna set y'all alarms to wake up and pretend like you woke for the new year and send out a whole bunch of messages? Yeah. How many of y'all gonna start sending them out by 6 p.m. tonight because you know you're gonna be asleep?
You ain't gonna go through it either.
And I'm just asking. I mean, no judgment. But seriously, you guys, it's New Year's Eve. We're still open for business. Always. You can still click our links and go get stuff. So we're here.
I love the way you said that.
So we're here to share some wisdom and some insight with you. Hey, Miss Renette.
Hey, Renette.
What she say?
She said, child, I'm hoping I'm up.
You hoping you up, Lord. Okay, so look, we're ready. We're going to go beast mode today. And I listen, we could. Okay, August Crenshaw, business coach. Bam. Y'all know who I am.
Yes, Imani Aisha, marriage coach, and this is Couch Conversation.
Woo. But we have a topic today, and the topic today comes from something that I heard people say in church all the time. How many of y'all ever heard somebody say, it don't take all that? Do you even know what that means when you hear that? You say, hey, yeah. She's Vanessa saying,
hey, happy.
Okay, so Anisha saying she's gonna be asleep. Yeah, Happy New Year's now. Okay, but yeah, so how many of you guys have ever heard the expression, it don't take all that? And if you haven't, I'm gonna put it into context, but we're gonna flip this statement just a little bit to give it some real meaning here. So, you know, sometimes you would see people, they would be in church and they praying and fasting, they hooting and hollering, they speaking in tongues, and other people be looking at them like, it don't take all that. And so honestly, that's a truth and a lie all in one statement. But what it boils down to is that, you know, there's some people, right, that may have like been down in the gutter. Maybe you have you went through a really bad divorce, you were, you know, beat, maybe you were homeless, sleeping on the streets, and you had this like divine spiritual moment, and you have them kind of people like be hardcore for Jesus, like I was lost but I'm really found, you know, they like the person that was blind but really see, and so they got this kind of enthusiasm, right? Hey, Miss Mama Carrie, that seems like it's abnormal, it's too much, and it's over the top.
Yeah.
And so people that don't understand their story would think that they're being too dramatic and then disrespect them by saying it don't take all that.
Man, it's too much. You're doing too much.
Yeah. So now that we've got that statement in the context, I want everybody to think, because this is the show where we're talking about what's going on in your marriage. We're talking about what's going on in your business. And I want you to really think about what you want. Now, you don't have to put it all in the comments, and to be honest with you, it'll probably take you all day. Maybe you want to, you know, splash some stuff in there. But I always ask my clients, what do you want?
Oh, yeah.
You know, regardless of what I see for you, I could believe you can and should take over the world. You know, we could peek and brain this thing together, but you might be like, nope, I just want to take over my block. You know, that's good enough. And I talked about this in another live about the proportion, you know, the size of the dream may be big for you. And you need to respect that, you know, for people. So what do you want? And I know for me personally, I won't, I'm not going to step in your lane too far. But one of the things that me and my husband said when we first got married was that we wanted to be an example for all other marriages. And everything that we've done, from how we handle the kids, how we handle finances, how we were when were in church together, how we work together, all of these things, when we've hit some rough patches, we had to look at, well, if we want to be the example for all other relationships, we got to make sure we're not doing what all other people in relationships do.
Right.
For my business, for me personally, I literally see me somewhere too big to explain right now. And the people that are in my sister circle, they know that. I truly believe that regardless of how you want to call it, there's a calling on my life, or I'm destined for extraordinary things. I don't see myself on such a small platform. Right. And not that there's anything wrong with somebody else like that, but when I say I see myself impacting the masses, I truly believe that. And for that reason, I structure, somebody mad. Maybe it was an accident. I structure my business and the way that I do things and the way that I reach out to people a certain kind of way. Right. And so you hear people talking about the 98 versus the 2%. I have a tendency to be going for that 98%, which some people think is futile. But if I'm a mindset expert and I believe that everybody has this angelic moment in their life, then I think that I can do that. And so it's funny, right? And I know she didn't mean any disrespect by this, but one of my friends on Facebook wished me happy birthday. Birthday was on the 29th. If you didn't give me anything, you can still do that. But seriously, hey, Tony, but she made the comment. She said, "Oh, you a Capricorn. I get it now. It makes sense." And I said, "What makes sense?" And she said, business, exclamation point. And I just laughed back and I said, "You see the part of the equation that I allow you to see." But somebody, look at that. Hey, did you send me a gift for my birthday, sir? Okay, so back to, once again, plug again. You said that. Plug. I mean, if you can say, hey, like that, I'm just trying to give them a gift. But real talk. So how is it that I can say that I see something so grand for myself, for my life, for my business, for my marriage, but then not have somebody look, thank you, sir, but have somebody look and say, she's kind of wishy-washy with her business. She's kind of in and out with it. And I always talk about your work ethic matching your expectation. And so, Oprah didn't get by and get to where she's at by being lackadaisical about what she does. She may seem a little bit more about business than the average person. So somebody that was telling Oprah it don't take all that realizes that and that person that wants what she has realized that it did take all that. And so that's where I'm going to be coming from with my advice and my things I have to say. I want you to get that in your mind's eye. What is it that you want? And then we're going to have some challenging conversation about what you're doing and what madness you're feeding into and whether or not you really are giving it all you got to get into your dream.
Yes. And, I ask the same of my clients in various ways, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know, and then you have ways to get it out of them, of course, that they may not see it coming, because that's important. That's really a benchmark for us to say, okay, this is where you say that you want to go. This is how we get you there. And from, my husband and I, we wanted to just be, it was kind of like this, we didn't call ourselves power couple, but this idea that whatever we were going to come to together, we were going to come to with whatever greatness we had to come to it in that moment, and continue to be able to elevate in that as we grew as individuals and we grew together. And that meant some really hard, difficult conversations. That meant some difficult, times in terms of how we wanted to do things, but we said, okay, we was going to come together. We was going, figure this out. And there were some sharper edges in that we'd have to smooth out. But we said that's how we're going to do it. And that meant, in similar vein to what you were saying, that our marriage had to look like our marriage. It couldn't look like anybody else's marriage. And that was something that we definitely held on to. But the reality is that there's so many, when you're dealing in your relationship and your marriage, besides the routine that you have going, that you're trying to keep afloat, so you can keep things together, so you can make sure the kids are where they need to be, make sure there's food on the table to eat, and the kids like you hungry, but you're trying to do two other things, and they don't have any pain. At least mine doesn't, because she's 3. any patience with that. And, you're working your business, you're, fielding calls, you're getting schedules together, you're trying to see if your schedule goes with the babysitter schedule. I'm currently on the hunt to get, a mother's helper, and I'm asking people, they're like, girl, I'm looking too, girl, I lost mine. Everybody, trying to get their schedules together in the midst of what I used to call all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
You really do have to do, all of that. It really does take all of that from the perspective of the marriage to really be engaged and not lose yourself, not feel like, not just that your life is cluttered in terms of things, but that your mind and your spirit has been decluttered. I might have decluttered my closet, but I've got to declutter my mind. I've got to declutter my spirit, so that I can show up, because I know enough about myself, right? Know thyself. Is that a Bible thing too?
Every time you hear thus, thou, and thou, examine yourself to know if Christ is in you is in the Bible.
Okay.
So that's close enough. No, which still means you need to know yourself.
Know yourself.
There you go.
That I know how short I am, how difficult it can be for me to show up for, my daughter, myself, my husband, when I'm not in that space of knowing that I need to declutter, knowing that it does take all of that, because I have to be so aware and so conscious. And most of us live in a state of unawareness.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. Like, you ever been in a situation where your spouse is talking to you and you're doing something? Now, maybe they should have, acknowledged that, hey, I'm speaking to you, and they're talking and they're expecting you listening,
and you not.
You're not.
You're like, huh?
And you might have even said yes. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes. I've done that.
I've done that. Yeah, sure. And they're like, okay, they're running with it. And you don't know what the heck you just say yeah to. And I know I do that with my daughter. You know what I mean? And I have those moments where I'm just not as present as I should be. We have those moments. And it's because it takes that level of awareness. It literally does take, that's why I taught on my video, it really does take all that. Because while you're doing all of the things, you have to be so present within yourself and with your spouse. And my husband personally can't stand it. It's like such a pet peeve for him. But he does it to me, y'all. He the yes of life. He'd be like, yeah. I was like, really? You want me to do that? He'd be like, wait, what? And and then he comes too, But it's still that work in progress. And so how much are you really putting in? How much are you really engaging in your marriage amid all of the things, right, that you have to do, the things that are obligatory? Because we can easily lose our way in the routine and the mundane when we're dealing in our marriages and we're building our businesses. And so that's not what you want, so that's really where I'm coming from, today.
No, I like that you brought that up. And so let's talk about that stripping process, because most people don't elevate because you don't declutter.
Yeah.
And decluttering, well, some of y'all, no, I guess I do declutter. I cleaned off my desk. I got rid of all the pieces of paper. I finally went through my emails and I finally deleted all of those people and got rid of those other folks. And I get, and when you think about decluttering, I went through a rampage, and my house, it just feels so much more open. And I threw out all of these bags of trash or clothes and donated this to the Goodwill and these books and did this stuff. And people will readily, yes, not decluttering. You will readily, it's physical decluttering, but it's not the most pertinent form of decluttering that is imperative. But you did. Somebody said you just clean. She said, no, you can't have that. You didn't declutter anything. But a lot of you won't declutter yourself with people.
Yeah.
And so your value systems and your structures, a lot of you won't allow them to be challenged because the people that you're around don't challenge them.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it goes back to that statement of if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to leave. You need to go join another one. But many of you will not declutter yourselves, not forget your self-talk. You can't even hear your self-talk because all of the talk that's around you is constantly telling you that it doesn't take all of that.
Yeah.
But if you are in a state of preparation, how do you get there? I know some of you guys, you may or may not like, some of the gentlemen, that I listen to, but I was just listening to an individual, and Grant Cardone, he could be a little rough sometimes, but the dude, when you catch him, when he's like in his, in his mindset and in his zones, he'll say some things and it's like, it's like, whoa, it's like, wait a minute. did you guys catch what he said? Because it was pertinent. And so a lot of you, he was talking about not buying some type of vehicle because it was a waste of money. And he finally went and got one. And then he said, but after a decade, of doing X, Y, and Z, I'm doing this. You guys don't go out there. Don't waste your money. Don't go buy this stuff. Don't buy something that depreciates with value, so on and so forth. And you would expect somebody like him, right? Because he could just go out and buy whatever he wants to be like, yeah, I made it. I did all of this stuff so I can get all this money. But evidently, there's something in his vision. Remember the question I asked at the beginning is like, what's your vision for your business? What are you thinking about? And so there's something in his vision. There's something that he wants that was like the exception. Hey, Terry, that was like the exception for him to say, I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to do this thing because this is my reward. But I'm not going to go bonkers with the rewards because I need to preserve my money for something else. And so what's happening with a lot of you guys is that you're not thinking like that and you're not talking like that because the people that are around you are so busy reminding you, well, look at what all you've done.
Yeah.
And you haven't done anything yet. What you've done is put yourself in the fire to get burned. What you've done is submitted and surrendered yourself to be broken. What you've done, they feel like you've done something, but all you've done is challenge your belief systems, tested your stamina, what you're able to take, what you're able to do. And if you don't get yourself around people who are speaking a different language, you're not going to get there. And I don't have time for you to tell me that you've been friends for 20 years. That they also have goals to do something too. But what are they doing with those goals? How are they really acting? How are they talking? And even if they do have goals, do their goals align with the kind of goals that you have? Because, for instance, you see people like, for instance, in music groups. And, one of them wants stardom. One of them just wants to do it for the love of music. Mm-hmm. Those two people aren't going to be able to be attached for very long because what they want is different. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that one is right or wrong. But the person that wants the fame and the glory, they're going to be trying to be at every show. They're going to be trying to pass out every demo they can. The person who just wants to do it for the love of it is going to go to open mics and maybe do a little club gigs here and there. And so once again, in your mind's eye, what do you want? Because depending on what you want for your business, it takes all that. You pull out the heavy arsenal and you say, I'm going to do all of these things that are effective because I'm on a mad blitz. I'm not only going to trip off of this and only trip off of that. Once you've got your business solidified and you have very, core offers and you know how to, spin off, then you do it, so that you can expand. So, yeah.
I have so many things what you just said. I'm hoping I can, when I say no, it's a good thing because you just sparked. And when I say so many, it's really two key things. So let me not get to lying and being all extra. We ain't supposed to be.
It's the last day of the year. Be extra.
Right. There's yes. But when it comes to, you spark some things when it comes to the marriage. I think in the business, what you're talking about, I resonated with it because those goals and that desire and, connecting to the why, you're always talking about the power of why. Got August Crenshaw in the head, like, yes, that's what we're talking about. And so, for me, on one hand, when it comes to the marriage, let's say in that scenario, you and your spouse, you want the same things, but you want them for different reasons. And unlike in a business scenario or something where you can just be like, I'm cutting ties with you. If you want to stay married, you're not necessarily doing that, right? You're not doing that. So that means, and I get this a lot, and this is why this came up for me, is it really does take you being able to navigate understanding that the way that you guys want to get there or the reasoning behind it is not going to be the same. So those are the things you need to talk about. Mm-hmm. And those are not the things that are those are not the conversations that are actually being had. The conversations that are being had are the more laid back conversations. They might not feel laid back, but they're like, hey, so, then we need to do this. Then why aren't you doing this if you need to? Well, I don't want to do it that way. And you're just going back and forth on that loop. But the reality is getting to that core and being able to navigate that is what makes the difference when it comes to that. And so what do you, when we're talking about the decluttering and you went deeper into that, what's got to go? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's got to go? Yeah. And in your marriage, if it's not your spouse, then it's something else. And there's going to be a process of what's got to go for you. And that's all you can control. And your spouse is going to have to deal with what has to go for them. And on the other hand of that influence, and this is so funny because it just actually just happened in my group. I did a training and someone said, man, I wish I had listened to that training before I went and did what you just said not to do in this training. Because what they did was, you're talking about the influences around us, not being able to hear. What they did was, you know, I'm not really dealing with what my spouse is saying. I'm shutting down on them. I'm not dealing with that, but I'm going to go talk to my girlfriend. Ooh. And, you know, and you know, they love us. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, like, we love our girlfriends. They, you know, they listen to us in a very different way than our spouses do. It's just different. You know what I'm saying? However, you know, one of the things that we have to be cautious of is when you're dealing with something with your spouse, you know, and you take it to someone even that you care, maybe that 20-year-old friend, there's always a level of caution, because one, they're coming from wherever they're coming from. They're coming from their experiences, the narratives that they have, and they're holding to themselves. They're coming from, you know, what's going on with their relationships in the past, what's maybe currently going on with their marriage in the present, or their relationship in the present. Like, what if they're ticked off with their man? You know what I mean? And you're really trying to reconcile, you'd be good. But then when you speak to them, all of that energy,
I guess that's just what men do.
Exactly. You know what I mean? They, you know, and there's even if you're you know, there's such an influence there, you know what I mean? And you know it's coming from somebody that cares for you. And so sometimes that's got to go. Sometimes the lines have to be drawn, and that's not always an easy line to draw. If you're used to, like, oh, instead of dealing with this over here with my spouse, I'm gonna go over here. Yeah. And all of that emotional energy is now transferred to somebody that you're not living with, somebody that you're not building a life with, even if it's your family member, your mama, your siblings. One thing that I always tell myself is that, you know, and what makes it easy to kind of choose my spouse easier, is that I'm not building a life with any of these people. You know what I'm saying? I'm not walking the path with them. And that has allowed me over the years to kind of let go of some things, to recognize when I'm not letting go of some things, because at the end of the day, this is the person you chose to do that with. So even if you are stepping into the fire and you feel like, dang, it's going to get hot and heavy, then it's just going to get hot and heavy. Yeah. That easier option of, you know, going to that other person, sometimes that's part of the clearing. Sometimes that's part of the decluttering.
Absolutely.
You know.
Can I add something to that? Go ahead. Because the other thing that I tell people all the time too is you have to realize that people, the advice that they give is no better than the information that you provide. Oh, and so that's I know true. That I do a practice of, if I call somebody too many times because I'm like, oh my God, I gotta talk to you because life is kicking my ass right now, then I'm like, you know what? I needed to call you just because I need to share a win with you. Because what happens is we don't pay attention to the fact that there's a tendency to reach out more when you call it when there's an issue. You're not calling when he's perfect. So the person on the other side of this is constantly like, but wait a minute, girl, but you said he did this, that, did that. So why are you, you know, with him? And it's the same thing with your business. Well, if you tried this and this and this and this and this, then why are you still doing that thing? Right. As opposed to talking to somebody who is a trained professional that's going to ask the questions and dig deeper, who's going to say, oh yeah, but you tried everything that you know, but you didn't know to try this, for a coach to open up your eyes and make you say, dang, key phrase, I always hear, you always hear. I never thought about it like that. Yep. And then when they implement it, it's like, oh my God, they get reinvigorated. There's a new spark, you know, and things do work. And so you also have to take that in consideration. Coaches, we don't just let you keep giving us a specific narrative. We take that bad boy and challenge it. Oh yeah. We challenge it to the umpteenth degree.
I hear that. I just heard that the other day. I was talking to somebody on the phone, and it was actually the husband. And I said, you know, I saw, because we see connections, and it's not hard to explain, but I know it's something that people have to experience, right? You know, with us. But it was like, I see the connection, and I asked the questions like, man, I never thought of that. You know, it never crossed my mind that was the case. And it's like, okay, well, there it is. Now we get a chance to explore something that you've never explored before. And I want you to think about how many nevers you've had in your business, and how many nevers are possible in your marriage. because you can only do from that which you know, right? So it's not about like, and then I know on my side, people are like, you shouldn't be telling all your business anyway, you know, da-da-da-da. You know, I'm like, yeah, I get that. You know, we just talked a little bit about the danger of that. But people lump professionals in with that. Like, don't tell, you know, don't tell your
not
stuff.
The same thing.
And I feel like that needs to be a huge, you know, differentiator, that it's different from telling somebody who's going to give you maybe generic advice colored by their own experiences, and actually telling somebody, talking to somebody that can help you figure out what to do with what you just told them.
Absolutely.
And that's completely different thing. So this whole thing of, you know, at least from my perspective, and I'm just being real, I've always heard like, you just shouldn't be, you know, telling people your business. Like, well, there's people, and then there's, you know, there are coaches and professionals who are there and who are ready to dig in to help you get where you want to get to. And that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, and at the end, the key word that just keeps on ringing in my head since both of us have been talking is the word challenge.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very prideful place to be, to want to be right. It's a very prideful place to be, to want to be right. What's wrong with accepting the fact that you're wrong and you don't know? We always want to be right. We want to be the fastest student. We want to learn the quickest. We want to do everything right. But the reality of it is, when it comes to marriage, most of us, not all of us, didn't have the best examples.
Yeah.
When it comes to business, most of us, not all of us, didn't have the best examples.
Right.
Because especially in our generation, most of us are from the era where you stayed with somebody just because it was till death do you part, and you kind of just dealt with shit. When it comes to entrepreneurship, most of us were taught that you should really just go and get that education and get that job because that's the most secure thing to do. And so there's so many things that you don't know. And the people that end up being the most successful are the ones who surrender and say, you know what, I don't know. And I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this for the long haul, which means that I'm not going to look for, in my situation, I'm not going to look for a quick PDF. I'm not going to look for the easy webinar opt-in to tell me what I need to know so that I can do these quick little tweaks to my business, because it's always deeper than that. I remember I did a sales challenge in the Close and Sales Private Club group. And I was like, what's your goals? What are you guys going to put up there? What are you going to do? And one of the ladies, she's like, yeah, I'm going to add this. You said that's exactly what we were taught. Exactly, Terry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out there, and if I do this, and if I sell this, and if I sell this and this, I'm going to make this much money. And I mean, you could feel the enthusiasm. I was like, shoot, well, she, and you
confident.
And you know what? And one of the first things that happened with her within like 48 hours, she sold like 10 of her books, like just like that. One of the other ladies, when she put in her goal, she was like, yeah, you know, well, I'm thinking that if I at least do this, or if this happens, then I could get this. And if that happens, then maybe that'll work. And because, and it's, I was like, pump the brakes. So one woman got challenged by me when she set the goal. The other woman, she didn't get challenged, but that was because it's all the other things. Like you said, there's always these connections that people don't see. I connected the if, this, and but. I didn't, the other woman was like this and this, or this and that. This and this, or this and that. The other woman was this, but if not, then this. One was laced, one conversation was laced with doubt. The other conversation was laced with optimism. And when you're building a business, even though stuff is going to happen, you need to stand in an optimistic place. And I was like, so I'm going to need you to challenge that. And of course, they went through a whole nother other conversation, but that's what a lot of you guys need. You need that in your marriage. You need that in your business. And for me, it's still going back to that reflective statement. What do you want in those categories? Because if you know what you want, then why aren't you acting on that? And so, and I'm going to pass it back to you, but it's like, for instance, like with me in my household, there are really no gender roles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There was a season when it was like that. And it's kind of like, it's what worked though.
Right.
You know, I worked at home doing hair. My husband was out doing lawn care, had a job with Metro. He was doing what he was doing, and it worked like that. So now that things have changed, it doesn't work like that. And when I'm in the kitchen, I'm like, do y'all realize y'all's blessed? I don't cook no more. What the dude say? I don't want meal. I don't cook no more. You know, what is that? Is that chicken? I don't fries no more. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, there's a switching. I was the one that was always doing a homeschooling, where now he's doing more with the kids and stuff like that. And our relationship has blossomed and it has changed and it has evolved. But I know good and doggone well that if we were around some of the people that we used to be around where we stayed at, there'll be a lot of conversations about the stereotypical spiritual roles of a man being a provider, having to do whatever. And I'm telling you, I've already told y'all before, look, Mr. Crenshaw, get on social media and tell me that this person's a good lead on a consistent basis. When he says, I peeped this person, it's a good lead, we talking about 6-month contracts, $4,000 a pop, 7,500. The dude, he's doing his job. He's handling his business. People out there talking about their marketing strategies and gurus. Look, I got my lead sniffer. And so do I want him to be out there trying to have a job working for corporate America? Is that what he wants because that's what he should be doing? Or do we want to collectively have a vision for financial independence and growth and seeing how the business and the marriage will have to work? We don't go to the stereotypical gender roles, which means that we don't talk to the people that we used to talk to about what we're doing because they don't get it and they don't understand. You can't be privy to what's going on in my relationship because you have no sensitivity to it. You don't even comprehend the variables. The people that you're talking to, do they comprehend the variables?
Yeah. And sometimes to declutter and do all of the things and reach that level of awareness and get and be open to getting challenged on levels, you gotta blow ish up. And like and I, you know, and I say that because you're talking about the gender roles in your marriage, and it's similar. I love listening to the couch. It's similar for me, just that we have to do with what works at the time. And sometimes it may look like we have traditional roles because I'm the one who's home and do it, but that's just what makes sense for where we are right now. And there have been times, and it has shifted a lot. And it's currently shifting again. But I get that a lot. I get the whole, you know, I'm exhausted, you know, I'm doing so much and like I'm working, I'm coming home and I have more work. And then like if I mention, you know, doing work at home to my spouse and he's like, well, don't you see how hard I work? And like I get this a lot. But the reality is you got to blow ish up and you both have to be open to figuring out what works for you, and it doesn't have to work for the Joneses or the Jacksons or the Smiths or whomever.
Yes.
It needs to be something that works for you. And it's easier said than done because think of how many years you've been laced doing it the same way you've been doing it with your spouse. Haven't really seen how it could be different and feeling defeated when they're resistant to, you know, any suggestions or changes that you're bringing to the table. And see, one of the things that I know that you know we navigate and help with is, well, how do we create what it is that works for you and that you want in your particular marriage? Because your marriage is unique. And so definitely get that a lot. And when you were talking about kind of seeking, Khalil, yes. When you were talking about seeking kind of the webinars and the things like that, and maybe you're seeking, you know, you're reading marriage books and you're listening to us right now, or you watch videos or DVDs, or you watch the Black Love docuseries, which was awesome. You know what I'm saying? Or you watch other things that feed into perspective and knowledge. I think that that's amazing. However,
yes, it is.
People get stuck in, I'm going to seek this knowledge, right? The webinars, the opt-ins, There's a distinction, there's a difference. And I think a lot we're talking about today is making certain distinctions and dispelling some myths that people have because they're lumping things together. There's a distinction between seeking knowledge only and seeking guidance, which comes with getting the knowledge, right? And I don't think that people make that distinction because when we're looking, they're like, if I just have enough, if I get and I'm saying this from the business perspective, I'm definitely saying this because I've been there. You know, and I'm like, okay, funds feel tight. And I say feel because I know that my money mindset back then was not one that was going to welcome, you know, too much. I was looking to invest, but at the time I was like, ooh, things are tight. And, you know, if I just get enough of these opt-ins, you know, these PDFs, if I just go to enough webinars where they say they're going to tell me the exact way and they underline it and they bold it, girl, you know what I'm talking about. And they bold it, you be like, oh, the exact steps, you know, you ready with your notepad. And, you know, and I have gotten from those things, I have gotten information. I had notebooks and notebooks of information. And I have also invested in, you know, in getting information and DIY things and, you know, courses and stuff like that. You know, full figures investments, you know what I mean? So I was willing to do that to gain more knowledge. But the reality is what I really needed was guidance. Because with the guidance comes the knowledge that you are going to get and the way in which you uniquely can use that knowledge to your advantage. And that is gold. And that is priceless. And that's what accelerates you in your business. That's what takes the things that you've read in books and that you've watched and that have resonated with you and helps you apply it to your actual marriage. That is the difference. So you can seek the knowledge, you can watch the videos. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you stay in that lane, and you ask yourself how long you've been in that lane and how much that has actually served you from staying in that lane only, then you come to a point where you realize that you need the guidance because you need both. Yeah. Because you don't know how to apply it. You don't know which way you're going to go. And that's a really important, you know, differentiator when it comes to, hey, you know, I see the coaches or I see whoever, I'm just going to get, you got this going, let me get this. Great, you have that, but then some people are able to run with it. But there are definitely, and I'm going to say majority, I'm going to say the majority of folk need some level of guidance along with that. Yes. And so, you know, you said that and I was like, oh.
No, that was it. And even Anisha said it, absolutely. Guidance is golden. Yes. Yeah, I know we love alliteration too. So that was a double win. Yes. So Justin said, I understand the Mr. Mom and the dynamics of that type of marriage. My hubby even learned how to do the girl's hair while I was away for 6 weeks. Yes. Camille said, blow it up. Yes. Terry's driving. She said she coming back for the replay. Yes. But, you know, absolutely. And
I might steal that, Anitra.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it.
Yeah, steal it and say that Anitra said it.
No, you said it and Anitra put it down there. I have those moments. I told her I have those moments. I just be saying stuff. I don't realize what I said. And then people be putting it. I'll be like, ooh. And then I'll be like, oh, they're quoting me.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, she was spitting, y'all. She had it. Look.
Oh, I thought you
I thought you were spitting from me. Oh, my bad, no. Okay, so
yes, ma'am.
Bring it back. So I mean, but there it is right there. And I just want to even add a deeper level of clarity. We don't want you guys to admit that you're wrong. We just don't want you to be prideful and try to be right. We want you to just admit that you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. It's okay to not know. It's okay to be ignorant of certain things. And then that's when you say, well, I've got to get the guidance, because knowledge without implementation, yes, that was all you know. Because knowledge without implementation is, you know, whatever. You guys hear me say all the time, it's not when you know better, you do better. It's when you know how and you implement that. That's when you actually do better. So a lot of us in our head, we know we should save. Yeah. We know we should exercise. We know that we should watch less TV. We know we should be conscious of what we're putting into our subconscious when we're laying. We know we should carve out more time for the kids. We know we should incorporate more date nights. We know that we should post or do more things. But without somebody to help us declutter all of the junk that we're hearing and we're thinking we're supposed to do to give us guidance and tailor-made guidance to that, we end up being stuck. We end up taking the long journey to success. And that's not what you want. Going and getting the guidance is one of the things that circumvents all of the hard work. One of the best, one of the first good coaching situations that I had, it was me learning how to do summits. And I was able to take that bad boy and bring it back around again on my own because of everything that I learned. And I watched how everything that I did from that summit, the residual impact, even for the people that attended, didn't open up the emails, didn't buy the passes, some of those same people still followed me, tracked me, became clients, bought other things. And so there's a residual impact. But I didn't just go and listen to somebody give me a bunch of information about how to do something. I implement it. And even when I've done things on my own, I've implemented. And one of the things that has gotten me is if I'm like, okay, I'm doing all of this stuff and I'm looking at all this stuff about marketing, but I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, then I'm going to go ahead and pay somebody, and I'm going to have me another coaching experience with somebody to help me, with marketing, because I don't know. And there's no way that you can know everything, but the thing that's going to make some people stand out more than others are the ones that you end up calling the gurus for real, are the ones like us who say, not only will we seek and will we find, but we will implement, and we also will pay for guidance and get taught the right way to go. That's the only thing that we're also saying to you guys, is that we're team. What's your vision? The question was asked at the beginning, what do you see? What do you want for your business? What do you want for your marriage? Because that's what we want to know. We don't want to tell you that which we are geniuses, by the way. I'm not saying that we're not, but what we don't want to do is just tell you how genius we are, that we've already got a 6-step process.
And exactly. Underline.
And if you just come in and do these things, you're going to transform your marriage overnight.
Yeah.
You're going to transform your business overnight. No, we want to know exactly what it is that you want, and we want to be in alignment with the vision that you have for your relationships. And so you guys hear me say it all the time. I'm so excited because guess what? We got a special website now, FBFM, for Fix My Business, fixmymarriage.com. So just go to www.fbfmaugustcrenshaw.com. Read a little bit more to get an understanding about what we're talking about. It's still the same base price of $97 a month for you to come in and to work with us to help you with your business and to help you with your marriage, to get you that declutter, to help you get the structure and to guide you towards proper implementation. That's what we're here for.
And I'm so excited because I just can't hide it. Because we can't separate the fact that this is a new year, even if you're trying to be like, I don't want to be, all in a bunch of people, the peer pressure and the renew. But at the end of the day, we all feel a bit renewed when the new year comes up. And this is the time, if not now. I mean, not to sound cliche, but seriously, if not now, when?
If not, then when?
Right. Like, when are you going to say, okay, now, do you have a date? Do you have a benchmark? Because people say, well, later, but what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm.
And people are not always honest with why they're making a certain decision. You know what I mean? We've talked about this a little before. Like, if this is a decision, if this is something that you need, what is happening with my, my throat? I know. See right here, this one, right? But if you know that you're aligned and this is what you need, then whether the answer is yes, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna jump in. Okay, I got the 97. Let me get in. Let me at least see. Let me get behind the curtain and work on this because it is month to month. Or you're like, no, but even if you're saying no, it's because, hey, I know this is another priority, or you know what, I'm saying no right now, but I know that in the second quarter of the year, this is happening. This is when the upswing happens in my business. So I'm planning to, you know what I mean? Like that people are not really full on honest about where they are, whether it's yay or nay. And that's really, I want you to do that. I mean, I think we both do, but if you know that you need this and you're saying yay, then let's do that. You know what I mean? Let's make that happen, because the commitment is really just, as with anything, that one step at a time, to take the step and say, okay, I'm going to go behind the curtain and I'm going to get the guidance that I need so that I can put the knowledge into implement the knowledge. You know what I mean? That I'm getting and that I'm receiving. So
absolutely. So ladies, we're still here. We're still ready. And we're still waiting for those of you that haven't made the decision to come on and join the fold. But it's New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's New Year's Day. Will you be setting a firm resolution, or will you be doing a resolution?
Thank you, Camille.
Yes, thank you. So resolution, firm stance to make a change. Resolution, try implementing the shit you already did.
Yeah.
Some of you guys are really implementing resolutions. It's a hyphenated word instead of a word with a brief. I'm just saying.
Was that on the fly?
No, I said it. I was on the fly about a year ago, and I say it all the time now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I would like to go ahead and be a G.
Like it was
not today. So, ladies, we are going to let you go. For the gents that be tuning in too, we love you dearly. We about to say, hasta pronto, baby.